Welcome, everyone. Today we're exploring how to combine universal design for learning principles with AI Microsoft Copilot to create more inclusive, effective writing instruction for your grade 8 students. So I'm excited to share some practical strategies you could implement right away in your content curriculum areas. Before we begin, though, a little bit about me. My name's Katrina Gowett. I'm a student success for Learning Innovation Consultant here at the School Board Office. So we're going to start with the foundations of UDL, Universal Design for Learning, just to make sure everyone's on the same page, as well as blended learning, and explicitly connecting those approaches to Ontario's transferable skills that is integrated within all of our updated curriculum documents. We're going to explore some writing strategies that work across subjects, and then we're going to do some demonstration, and hopefully you'll participate as well. And we're going to use Copilot, since that's our approved app here, can help implement the approaches that I'm going to show you today. You'll have a chance to create your own activity, and hopefully you can use it in the classroom right away. I do want to mention that much of today's presentation is pulled from this book. Hopefully you can see it here. It's called Shift Writing into the Classroom with UDL and Blended Learning. It's by Caitlin Tucker and Katie Novak. It's an excellent resource. I read through it and have so much highlighting and notes and things, but I'm just going to share a small portion of that with you today. Okay, so let's look at this. So the problem with traditional writing instruction. Now, before we dive into the solutions, I want us to consider why traditional writing instruction often falls short. So many of us feel overwhelmed by the planning and assessment load, and meanwhile, our students aren't necessarily developing the autonomy they need, especially when our approaches don't account for learner variability. And too often, writing becomes separate from content learning, like our history, geography, science, rather than enhancing it. And perhaps most importantly, traditional approaches often miss valuable opportunities to develop the transferable skills our students need for success beyond our classrooms. So hopefully today will help. I know writing instruction was always a really challenging part of when I was in the classroom, and I'm hoping that today is going to give you some on what you could do. So universal design for learning. So this is a framework to improve and optimize teaching and learning for all people based on scientific insights into how humans learn. It isn't something you do as much as a framework that drives asset-based beliefs and design. It's really intentional. So it's built on 3 core principles. The first is multiple means of engagement, and that speaks to motivating diverse learners by offering choice while still having your firm goals of your curriculum expectations. Second, multiple means of representation that acknowledges that students process information differently. So we need different ways or various ways to present content. And finally, the multiple means of action and expression that gives students different ways to demonstrate their learning. So these principles are all about firm goals with flexible paths. Okay, so the first UDL principle is multiple means of engagement. AI tools like Microsoft Copilot can help create personalized learning experiences tailored to individual student interests. So for example, you could generate customized examples that connect curriculum concepts to students' passions, whether that's sports or music or specific cultural contexts. And it can suggest differentiated motivational strategies that really meet students where they're at, and especially with their prior knowledge and interests. And that helps address the why of learning and supporting varied background knowledge and creating multiple entry points into any topic. And that makes learning more accessible and engaging for all of our students. Our second UDL principle focuses on multiple means of representation, or the what of learning. So Gen AI really excels here by helping transform content between different formats and complexity levels. So for example, you could ask Copilot to convert complex text into simpler language. You could create visual representations, sometimes successfully, sometimes it's not so successful. AI is really moving there. Or generate scaffolded materials that gradually build understanding. And it can provide vocabulary to support through definitions, analogies, and connections to students' prior knowledge. When students struggle with a concept, you could request explanations at multiple complexity levels to find the right approach for them. And that flexibility allows us to present curriculum content in various ways. This supports students with different learning preferences, language backgrounds, and processing needs. Before artificial intelligence came along, or I should say generative artificial intelligence, this kind of piece in our classroom was really a huge challenge. But with AI, we really can speed up the way in which we provide these different options for our students, which is really exciting. Okay, so the third principle addresses multiple means of action and expression, so the how of learning. And Gen AI can help create diverse assessment options that allow students to demonstrate learning in ways that play to their strengths. So it could be a choice board. For students who struggle with writing, Gen AI can offer scaffold support. It can offer outlines or sentence starters or editing assistance, and it can do it quickly with your guidance and prompting. And we're going to look at prompting later today. It can generate customized planning templates, organizational frameworks, or step-by-step guides to support executive functioning skills, especially for those students that need it. And teachers can use generative AI to provide targeted feedback on various expression formats, from written work to presentations. Now, we're not going to have AI do student assessments. That is not something that we're supportive of. And you can watch some of our other presentations to know more about that, the privacy aspect in particular, but it really can help us formulate some feedback options to students that are personalized. And additionally, it can suggest specific accommodations or modifications for students with learning differences. And when we thoughtfully implement these, the supports help remove the barriers for students to successfully complete assessments. Okay, now let's take a look at Ontario's transferable skills. This may be something you're all aware of, or maybe not so much, but it is from the Ministry of Ontario and Ministry of Education in Ontario. And you will notice in updated curriculum documents that it will indicate what transferable skill is being focused on at that point. Sorry, I just got signed out. Here we go. Okay, so today we're really going to focus on critical thinking and problem solving, innovation, creativity and entrepreneurship, self-directed learning, especially collaboration and communication. Okay. So let's make UDL concrete for writing instruction. For engagement, we might offer students choice in writing topics within your history unit while maintaining the same assessment criteria. For representation, we might provide model texts at different levels or use visual organizers to explain the writing process. And for action and expression, students might draft using speech to text, collaborate with peers, or create a multimedia presentation alongside traditional writing. And so each of these approaches naturally develops transferable skills like self-direction, critical thinking, and communication. Okay, let's take a look at blended learning. This is likely something you are already doing, but it provides a structure to implement UDL effectively. So it combines online and offline learning experiences to give students more control. There are 3 key models that we'll talk about today. Station rotation, that lets students cycle through different activities, including small group instruction with you. Whole group rotation alternates between that whole class activity and then independent work. And then the flipped classroom moves content delivery outside class time to focus on application during class time. With the flipped classroom, you really need to know your class and group. For some years in my class, that wasn't really tenable, depending on devices that were available. So maybe something hard copy had to be sent home rather than a video. You just really need to know your class and what works best for them. Okay. Let's focus on the station rotation model. So this one you may dabble in or do regularly, or maybe you haven't tried it yet this year. So this can be particularly powerful for writing. So imagine your classroom with 3 to 4 stations. You might have a teacher-led station, and that's where you can provide the targeted instruction to small groups. This can really help with the marking load, right? Because you're sitting with a group of students, you're giving feedback live. It would also involve an independent station where students work on specific writing tasks, a collaborative station where peers provide feedback to one another, and a technology station where students use digital tools like Copilot to, if you've dipped into AI in your classroom. And this model lets you differentiate support while students move through the writing process at their own pace. You can see I've highlighted Dr. Catlin Tucker here. She's done a lot of work around blended learning. She was one of the authors of the book I pointed out earlier. Okay, now for station rotation to work effectively, we need to explicitly teach the skills students need for success. I know some years I had classes where I was like, no way this is going to work. They're too, active. They are too chatty. It's just going to be impossible. But the thing is, kids really need the explicit instruction on collaboration and communication and what it looks like. And just like anything, you need to start small and build it up. And this is where we can really build on the transferable skills. We're seeing in industry that businesses, companies, they want these transferable skills, their employees to have them. And they're not just going to happen on their own. And so we need to help our students build them. Station rotation can be a great way to do that. Okay. And by naming it and saying like, hey guys, we're going to, or hey class, we're going to focus on our, our self-regulation right now during this 10-minute station rotation, then it gives them that goal and focus, hopefully. Okay, so how can AI enhance UDL writing instruction? So generative AI can help implement these strategies while saving you so much time. Copilot can generate differentiated writing prompts tied to your curriculum expectations, create exemplar responses at various levels for models, and design scaffolded materials like graphic organizers, and even help you provide more assistance to students. So using AI tools in your classroom, it also creates authentic opportunities to develop students' digital literacy skills, another key transferable skill in Ontario. When we are talking, so let's now shift to, I just want to do a little bit of pre-work about the tool that is approved here at Waterloo Catholic, as well as how it's being used. And you may be very fluent in this, but I just want to review it anyways for everyone in the room. So when we talk to a generative AI model like Microsoft Copilot, you're speaking to a computer. You're talking to a computer, and you need to talk in a way that is going to best communicate the results you want to receive. I think many people, when they start out using generative AI, they might think, geez, like, what's the big deal? This isn't actually very good. But generative AI models, they work mathematically, right? They're looking at patterns. If you don't give them all the information, they're going to fill in the blanks. And that's where we can end up with hallucinations, misinformation, or inaccurate information. So when we talk to a generative AI model, it's helpful to have this framework in place. So maybe we call it prompt engineering or prompt crafting. But we want to make sure we introduce the question with a prompt. We're going to tell it what it's going to do. We're going to give it a role. And you might say to the AI model, you are a grade 7 Ontario teacher. Or you might say, I'm a grade 7 Ontario teacher. You're giving that context, so it's not going to just guess and think like, well, maybe they're a grade 5 teacher in California. We want to make sure we are explicit. And then in the instructions, what you need to see. And I'm going to show you some really good examples of that, as well as parameters around the answer. What must it have? What shouldn't it have? The length of it, all of those pieces. Okay. So now just want to dip into Microsoft Copilot. So just a review, I'm sure most of you are aware, but this is our generative AI approved tool at Waterloo Catholic. It is approved for staff use and student use for students in grades 6 to 12. It is a yellow tool, which means it's approved, but so there are certain things we need to make sure that we are following. So I'm just going to open up Copilot here. Usually I use Chrome, but I actually prefer using Microsoft Edge as it is a Microsoft tool. You can access it from the My Apps, either on Chrome or in Edge, but I actually like going up here to the top right. It opens up this panel here. I could continue to browse the web, but I like making it full screen. And before I use this tool, I want to make sure that I am signed in with my school board credentials. I will see my picture likely down here. I will also see this green shield that indicates that we have enterprise data protection. And we want to make sure we see this because it means the information we put in here is not training the model. So it gives us an extra layer of safety and security. We still want to be preventative and make sure we're never putting in student information like names, birth dates, addresses, anything that's specific to that student. We don't put in student names, okay? But here's our window down here. So that is, and those, when we use it with students, they also need to be signed in and they should also see this shield. Okay, I have linked at the end. We have 7 lessons built out for you to introduce AI with your students. If you want to do that, you do not need to do that. Today's workshop is about your use of generative AI, but I know many people are curious and wanting to explore that option with students. Okay, so then let's get into prompt crafting templates. So I've created a whole bunch of prompts that we are going to play with today. So I'm going to bring it over here and I'm going to just put the link in the chat right now. Here, you should be able to access it if you're logged in with your WCDSB credentials. Okay. Okay, so in this document, I've started off with the prep model just because it's helpful to remember like why these prompts are laid out this way. And I also want to mention the edit. So we also, once the output comes back to us from the generative AI tool we are using, we need to make sure we are reading it very carefully. We're evaluating it to make sure that it meets our expectations, determine if it, if I need to cross-reference it with other sources, see if it has any biases. AI can be quite biased, just like humans can be. And then I need to transform it, meaning that I need to adjust what has been given to me to make sure that it meets the needs of what I'm working on, the needs of my students, etc. Okay, so I'm just going to go back here. And we're going to look at 3 strategies today, and I'm going to show you the corresponding prompts that go with them, and we're going to try them out. Okay, so let me just do this here. Okay, so our first practical strategy is incorporating low-stakes daily writing. So learning journals, they give students a great space to practice new information or respond to prompts. This is especially great when we're talking about our science, our geography, our history, and thinking about writing across the curriculum. Integrating writing into our other subjects is really an important skill, and also great practice for students. So we can also look at entry and exit tickets to check understanding, assignment wrappers. So in the book I shared with you earlier, they called them exam wrappers, but I think for intermediate, it's more appropriate to say assignment wrappers. And these help students reflect on their study strategies before and after assessments. You're probably not going to do it for every assessment, but maybe for those larger tests or projects. It can be really helpful for students to think about what are they doing to prepare for it, and then afterwards, how did those strategies help them? Quick writing activities develop thinking skills without creating a marking burden for you. And they also directly support the critical thinking and self-awareness components of Ontario's transferable skills as students are learning to monitor and reflect on their own learning process. We're going to look at, so here you note that I've put in some language expectations. Artificial intelligence is quite quite smart, quite good, but sometimes it's not great at retrieving specific curriculum expectations from the right spot. So you might end up, it's much better for us to actually copy and paste in an expectation from the ministry document rather than just saying, I want you to pull expectations C 3.8. Alternatively, with Microsoft Copilot, you can attach. So if you had a PDF of your curriculum document, then you could add it in there and it can respond to it. Okay, let's just start with the learning journal. So I'm going to go over here. Let's start with the learning journal. So you can see here, it's basically a fill in the blank for you. Okay, so these prompts are quite long. Like I could just go to Microsoft Copilot and say, hey, I need you to create 5 learning journal prompts for my grade 7 Ontario class about Canadian history in the 1800s. So that's a terrible prompt. And so to demonstrate that, it's pretty vague. It doesn't have a whole lot. It may not actually pull the information that I'm actively teaching in my class. So maybe it's fine, but using this prompt framework, you're going to get much better results. So let's look at this here. So it's laid out just like the prompt framework here. The prompt create a task, and I get to say how many. Low stakes daily writing prompts for learning journals that address the Ontario curriculum expectation, and then I can insert it directly there. And then I'm giving it a role. You're a grade, and you might want to switch what you are. Teacher in Ontario who specializes in learning journals to develop students' critical thinking and self-awareness through regular reflection. I would never think of putting this in on my own. It sounds a little bit silly to type this out, but it does give us better results when it has the context for what you're looking for. I'm also going to give it explicit directions or instructions here. So I want writing prompts that connect to the curriculum expectation. They encourage that metacognitive thinking and reflection. It can be completed in a short amount of time. I can have it create multiple prompts for me that then students can have choice and they don't have to do the one prompt that I give them. The parameter down here, I just want to direct your attention to, it should follow UDL principles by offering multiple means of engagement and expression, develop Ontario's critical thinking and self-directed learning transferable skills, align with work within a station rotation or whole group blended learning model. So that's extra parameters that I've put in here. So I can take this and I can go over to Copilot. I'm always going to start a new chat so it doesn't get confused. I'm going to add it in here and I'm going to do my fill in the blank. So I'm going to ask for, I think I'm going to ask for 3. I don't want to give too much choice. I want to give just enough. And the expectation, I pulled this in earlier. I pulled a grade 3 expectation. That is expectation B1.3, talking placement of various groups and communities. So I might pull in just a piece of this expectation. I'm going to pull in the whole thing and see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to go here. You can be doing the same and playing with this at the same time if you like, or you can just watch along. Okay, so I have my curriculum expectation. I've said how many I want, and I'm also going to say that I'm a grade 7 teacher here. Okay, I'm going to press go. Okay. Now, always keep in mind that edit process, when we get a response from an AI model, we really need to think about if this is what we were looking for. And this is a chat back and forth. I can say what I like or what I don't like about this, right? This isn't probably going to be my final what I give the kids. So reflecting on displacement. Think about a time when you had to move or change something important in your life. How did you feel? Now imagine you're a member of an Indigenous community in the early 1800s experiencing displacement due to settlement encroaching on your land. How might you feel and what challenges might you face? What strategies would you use to cope with these challenges? So this is really trying to get at what is a student's own prior knowledge of a displacement experience, then trying to pull in the content that has been learned from what you've taught, and then again applying it back to what strategies could be used. So that might be something that you're happy with and would like to give this as a prompt to students. So you can see that there are different prompts and they are different topics. So that's one example. Let's move on to showing you the next one, an entry or exit ticket. I love doing exit tickets, like a one question that just gives me a great view into, did they understand what was going on in the class today? What questions do they have? And there's so many different templates out there for entry and exit tickets, but here's one where we can explicitly put in how many we want and a specific curriculum expectation. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy this over. And again, I'm clearing my chat because it's a new topic. I'm going to say I want an exit ticket. And I would like to create, sometimes having it create bulk is great. Like you could say create 10. Again, I'm gonna say create 4 exit ticket templates. And here's my expectation I'm going to put in. I'm just going to grab the same one that I did just from the last one. Okay. I'm going to paste that in there. And then I had done this, played with it yesterday. And I want to make sure it's just one question. Okay, and I'm just going to press, there we go, and we'll see what it comes up with. So exit ticket 1 is a reflection question. Reflect on the impact of the War of 1812 on Indigenous communities in Canada. How did displacement caused by the war affect their way of life? Instructions. So maybe this is great, maybe this is too long. I might say, I need you to shorten these down. Students can do this quickly. Okay, and it's going to come back with how did the War of 1812 affect Indigenous communities in Canada? Write 1 to 2 sentences or draw a quick sketch. So maybe that meets what I would like for an exit ticket. It's going to be a little bit quicker. I might always come back and say, I have a student who struggles with written responses. Please create a short conference question I can ask them. Okay, so it can create that as well. So based off of this information, you could really riff on it and pull out a whole bunch of different options for gaining understanding of where students are at before you get to the final test. Okay, let's look at this assessment wrapper. I really like this idea. So I just wanted to put up here what an assessment wrapper is in case you aren't familiar with it. So this is a writing reflection that students complete both before an assessment and after they receive feedback. So the goal is to reflect and think about their study skills and learning, ultimately building their metacognitive reflections. And when we do this, we're building those metacognitive reflections. We're also building their transferable skills, but we're also building their writing skills, right? Because they're writing in a different way. So that is, it really meets all of those needs. So here, this is going to, I'm going to use the same curriculum expectation again, just because I have it handy. You might want to use something different. I'm going to go over to Copilot, create a new chat, and I'm going to go here and say, actually, you know what? I'm going to open up the curriculum document. So here, and why don't we go to, let's do geography instead. So maybe some of you are on geography. I'm going to go to grade 8 geography. And by strand, okay, I'm going to pick an overall expectation. So let's go to, I'm going to do this one, A3, demonstrating understanding of significant patterns and trends related to human settlement. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go into Copilot. Sometimes it's easier to edit these in a doc. You're welcome to make a copy of the doc that I shared with you, make it your own. So I just realized I put it in the wrong spot. Okay, so I'm going to say grade 8 geography, and the curriculum expectation is right here. Okay, I'm going to put it in and see what it comes out with. Oh, how many templates? So if I didn't put in all of the information, see, I forgot to put in the number, then it's come back and asked me how many templates would I like to design. I'll say, let's start with 1. So I can just get an idea of how I might like it adjusted. So pre-assessment reflection, planning your study approach. So I'm sure all of us here, we give our students time to study for tests. We give students time to work on their assessments or their projects. I'm not sure I really ever asked these types of questions to them, though. What specific topics related to settlement patterns and trends do you feel most confident about? Which do you think will be most challenging for you? And maybe as a whole class, we discuss this, but I didn't give individual time for students to think it and jot it down. And this doesn't have to be a big reflection piece, and it shouldn't even be something that you're collecting and assessing, but it's really for the students, for them to start thinking about their own learning. So how do you plan to allocate your study time, right? Maybe we use agendas or digital calendars. This can be time for them to actually time block out time to study, and thinking about the resources they're going to need. So I think this would be a really helpful assessment. Not assessment, reflection. I would go through it with my students and I would say, you don't need to do all of this, but some of these questions are really going to help you with your studying. Now, this post-assessment reflection, after it's been marked, you've given feedback, this is a great time to give them 10 or 15 minutes to reflect back on that assessment and the feedback. I'm sure you can all relate to how frustrating it is when you spend so much time giving really explicit feedback, and then maybe the assignment just ends up in the recycle bin, or it's not looked at and they just want to look at the grade, right? This makes them slow down, pause, and think about, okay, well, this was my feedback. What did I do well? What do I need to think about for next time? And of course, we're always going to have students that embrace this kind of reflection and others who are more resistant. And it might take many times for this practice to be in place before it's something that students fully embrace. So just something to think about there. Okay, we're running short. We have about 9 minutes left. So I'm not going to go through every prompt, but I do want to just look at the other two strategies that you might want to consider. So when we assign more formal writing in history or geography, students need specific supports. And so showing models of effective disciplinary writing, like a well-written historical analysis that you likely have shown students already, and explicitly teaching specialized vocabulary they'll need is really important. And Copilot can help with both of those. So we can have students write in class where you can provide real-time guidance. You can incorporate peer feedback using, clear protocols, and importantly, building in time for revision so students can apply what they've learned. The revision, we're often tempted to just not race, but feel like we're always behind. But the reflection is really where the learning happens. So pausing and taking time to do that is really important. I have prompts that are built out for some of these here. Like this discipline-specific models, creating that. That's a cool one. Okay, let's look at strategy 3, So our third strategy builds students' capacity to reflect on their own writing. So after completing writing tasks, having students to answer the reflection questions about what worked, what challenges they faced, and what they'll do differently next time. And the station rotation model, that gives you a structured time to have these conferences with small groups while others are working independently on this type of reflection as well. And this can directly develop critical thinking and self-directed learning transferable skills as students are learning to analyze their own work process and set goals for improvement. There's another prompt for them. Okay, so in the last few minutes here, if you haven't been trying it out as we go, I'd invite you to try out one. So you can choose an Ontario curriculum expectation, maybe one you're going to work on tomorrow, and think about, who is your target audience? So the students in your room. What goals are you trying to accomplish? Is it just a check for understanding? Is it a reflective question? What do you want to do? And what strategy could you use? So you can head over to this template and check out the different options that are available to you. Okay, maybe a peer feedback. Maybe you've just done a writing assessment or assignment with students. And you want them to do some peer feedback. This might be a good one. So I'm going to, if you're watching along with me in what I'm doing here, it created a peer editing guide I just put in, I think, a long time ago, I had students create social media profiles for a Father of Confederation. So I just put that in the prompt. And this has laid it out specifically to students, giving them some scaffolded steps on how to provide that peer feedback. So thinking about the questions, giving them some feedback frames, that can be really helpful, so that it is structured and it's meaningful rather than just like, great job, I loved it. Looking at the organization of it, the style of it, the mechanics, and even at the end, giving a checklist rubric for the students to look through before they give it back to their peer. This can be really helpful. There are some great studies showing that students find more meaning in their peer feedback than they do in their teachers, no matter how much time we spend on it. And so this is a great step to do first before it comes to you. I just want to put this out there. This is like just a hypothetical suggestion on how you could potentially structure it. I'm sure you have your literacy blocks already structured, but you might think about on Monday introducing a topic with some models and a quick write. Tuesday, you might have a station rotation, right? You're not doing it every day. And then you can get at some small group instruction. You could do some peer feedback the following day. Then you're revising with some more teacher conferences, and Friday reflection and sharing. This can be spaced out over time rather than just trying to tackle it all at once. Okay, so I wanted to give you some other resources to explore. So this first link is the document that I had already shared with you. This is the book that we just really took a very small portion of it and looked at some of the pieces today, but highly recommend it. If you're interested in more about UDL guidelines, this is an excellent website to go to. Katie Novak is also a leading expert in UDL, so you can go to her website. She has lots of resources and many published books. We also have some information on blended learning. D2L offers some resources, and then of course our Ontario transferable skills. If you haven't already, please take a look at the guidelines for educators for responsible use of generative AI. And we also have student guidelines that you can look at with your class. Co-creating AI use guidelines with your students before you actually start using it with them is a really important step. You may have seen these posters around. They kind of summarize some of the guidelines. If you would like some more on-demand professional learning, we have a WCDSB podcast called Deep Learning Dialogues, available on any of your favorite podcast players. There's an episode about using AI for UDL planning. And then we also have recorded generative AI webinars. There's 5 right now, but we will continue to add to them. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or my partner, Whitney, and we would be very happy to work with you, to answer your questions, to whatever you might need. Our session is done now, and so if you have questions or you want to hang back and ask questions, that's fine with me. I'll be here for the next little bit. But thank you for joining me today, and I hope you were able to take one thing away from our workshop and use it tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day, everyone.